Hey friend, in today's watercolor tutorial, I'm going to be teaching how to paint Kings Canyon National Park in California during the autumn season. Without further ado, let's get painting. For today's tutorial, I'm using black, Prussian blue, sap green, perylene green, yellow ochre, Venetian red, and burnt umber. The paper I have taped down here is a size 5 by 7 inches. And the round brushes I have here are size 2, size 6, and size 16 round Princeton brush. To get started, I'm going to take my size 6 round brush and just do a really light sketch with some watered down Prussian blue to outline our mountain that we have. And to begin, it's going to start with a slightly curved line that's going angled towards the right of the page. Then from here, I'm going to do a curved line that's much longer. And then another curved line. That kind of slopes back down. And then another little, kind of a subtle, almost half square shape, like a rounded square shape right there. And then I'll just leave the rest blank. I'm now going to take my size 16 brush and just do a wash of water, just like so. And I'm just going to lay out the water all above, kind of slightly layered on the sketch line. All the way to the edges of the tape. Now I'm going to take my size 6 brush and just do a wash of Prussian blue. We're gonna have just a nice vibrant blue sky. So I'm gonna make sure just to allow the blue to kind of glide across the page. Okay, and while that's setting, I'm going to sketch out a couple rocks using some watered down burnt umber. And I'm going to start by doing a vertical line that's slightly angled towards the left. And I'm going to do a slightly rounded curve and then let it finish off towards the right, just like so. And then I'm going to do another rock, and it's going to be more like a half square, just like that. And then just a small third one off towards the left as well. And then I'm going to take my brush and mix up a little bit of black with some burnt umber, just to kind of warm up the black just a little bit. And I'm just going to paint this color over the rocks. I'm just gonna allow these two areas to set and dry between the sky and the rocks, and then when we come back, we can move on to the next stage. Alrighty, next up, I want to take my size 6 brush with a little bit of burnt umber, and all I want to do is just loosely sketch a very subtle curved line, which is going to be kind of our area that we're marking off that is going to have fall foliage or trees versus the mountain face. We do a reverse kind of C curve here because we will have some fall foliage over in this area. So just doing a really light, loose sketch line. From here, I'm going to take my brush and just do a wash of water to begin. And I'm going to do this wash all over. And by all over, I apologize, I mean I'm going to put it all the way up until the sketch line and then to the edges and then the rim around the rocks. All right, and now to start, I'm going to take some yellow ochre and I want to start applying this all inside, I would say up until about this point. I'm just going to loosely sketch kind of up until the point that I would want to have the yellow. I'm going to have some foliage kind of slope upward here as well. So I'm kind of filling that area in with yellow. But I'm going to go ahead and continue doing so all the way to the edge of the rocks here. Then I'm just going to saturate a little bit more color over here. And I want to texturize some of the border of the yellow ochre. So I'm just taking my brush and just kind of giving it some looser texture. And then I'm going to take some burnt umber. And I just want to apply a few areas with a touch of burnt umber just to give some shading and some dimension. So I'm just kind of loosely blotting it in, allowing it to kind of bleed out and work its magic with the wet and wet technique. Then I want to take some Venetian Red and add just a few pops of this kind of rusty brown red. It's one of my favorite colors. I want a little bit of variegation in our fall foliage, so I'm just going to allow this to kind of bleed out. Okay, so while that's doing its thing, I want to take my size 6 brush and I'm going to take some black and just water it down to make a very subtle gray tone. And with the gray, I'm just going to add the tiniest touch of burnt umber. I'm just gonna add a little bit of a wash of this kind of warmer gray, just left to right in the center of this area. Gonna kind of layer it up just a little bit. And then from here, I'm going to mix up some Sap Green and some Perylene Green. To make a nice, rich kind of hunter green. And I'm gonna tap my size 6 brush and kind of use the tapping motion to get kind of some loose organic edges amongst the fall foliage and the yellow trees below. So I'm gonna go kind of up and down to get kind of a little bit of a loose, rougher edge where the foliage meets the pine trees that are gonna be placed above. So I'm just kind of marking this off, allowing it to kind of softly bleed and work its magic. This is a very loose style landscape, and I really like kind of mixing it up with some looser styles with watercolor here and there. I'm going to take a little bit of just straight Perylene Green, which as you can see is super duper potent, because I really do want some really just contrasted areas. Okay. Now what I want to do is use the Sap Green and Perylene Green blend and just do kind of a really loose zigzaggy motion. It's going to be kind of higher towards the left side here, but I'm just adding in this really simple loose tree texture just by doing this kind of vertical up and down motion. I'm really liking the loose quality to this, so this is pretty fun and kind of different from some of my other styles of watercolor. So now I want to also add a little bit of green up top here, using the same blend of green. I'm just adding a little bit of texture to it. I'm going to add just a touch of some watered down Perylene Green just to kind of texturize that just a little bit. All right, from here, I'm going to allow some of this to dry. We will add a few more finer details once it's dried. In the meantime, I want to add a little bit of really loose tree branches. While this area is still slightly wet where our fall foliage was laid out, I want some really loose kind of watery branches to be kind of laid out here. So I'm going to start by doing a few just loose kind of angled branches. And with branches, as I've said in previous videos, I kind of like to have just really organic, loose Y letter shape. So for example, here's like the letter Y, just like that. And sometimes I just like to extend one arm of the Y or add another arm to the Y and just kind of keep going from there. Just having loose, organic, angled branches, and just kind of in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm just painting the letter Y, but I'm just making it a little bit looser and organic. So there's my Y, and then from there, I'm just adding a few more. We can slowly start to see our landscape kind of get some life into it. And because some areas are still a little bit damp, it kind of gives some variegation on some of the branches really standing out, while others are just a little bit more muted and kind of misty, which is kind of a fun contrasting look to the landscape. Okay, so I've just added a bunch of kind of loose assorted branches. Next, I want to take a little blend of Venetian Red, a nice concentrated amount, and blend it up with some burnt umber, just to kind of tone it down and just give it a little bit more richness and depth of color. And then from here, I'm going to take my size 2 brush. And now that this is almost dry, I'm just going to add a little bit of texture with my size 2 brush in this color combo, just to add even more kind of dimension and foliage to this landscape. So I'm just going to tap this in just in a few spots where it's a little bit darker in color. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre and mix just a tad of burnt umber into the yellow ochre, because I just want a secondary shaded color. And I'm not going to place all of these little shaded bits absolutely everywhere. I do want some kind of looseness to still be shining through, but this is just to add a little bit more texture, so that way we can kind of get the essence of the shadows amongst the leaves. Now we can move on to really working on our rock face here. So I'm going to mix up some black and some burnt umber as our main rock color. And I'm just going to add some water to that just to kind of tone it down. And next, I just want to paint that color as a wash all the way across. So I'm just going to use and switch gears to my size 16 brush just to get a broader reach. I'm going to go ahead and just lay this all out, painting alongside the edges of the greenery, which we'll come back to. Okay, and while that's still kind of setting, I'm going to take a little bit more black and some more burnt umber and just add a few areas of shadow. So I'm going to add just a touch over towards the left, some over towards the right here, and just a little bit kind of loose and variegated on the mountain face. Just allowing that to kind of bleed and do its thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and allow that to kind of set. I'm just gonna kind of fine tune this edge here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and let this sit, and while it's hanging out, I'm gonna just kind of re-establish some details over here on our rocks down below. So I'm just gonna start by outlining using the combo of the black and the brown. Gonna kind of curve out this edge there. Then from there, I'm just gonna take my brush and just use the belly of my brush to fully texturize some of this rock face and give it just a little bit more variegation. All right, and now I'm gonna take my size 6 brush, dip it in some water, and then kind of blot it. And then from there, I'm just gonna drag it along the surface just to get a little bit more texture into our rock face. I'm gonna get a little bit more gray and apply a little bit more of a deeper value. I'm gonna go ahead and carry on the same over these smaller rocks here. Okay, and next up, I want to add some more details to our pine tree. So I'm just gonna take my size 6 brush and revisit that blend of Perylene Green and the Sap Green and just go back in and add a line of pine trees pretty much all the way across here. I'm not gonna fully cover this gray area of the rocks popping through, but I want to just add some pine trees here, and then we will come back and revisit our mountain above. now that I have my trees painted, I'm going to take a little bit of water just to kind of blend out the base of the line where the base of the trees are. So that way that is kind of softened just by a wash of water. So I'm just adding some pressure with my brush and just kind of buffing out that transition. Now I want to get some black and a little bit of burnt umber mixed up. And I'm going to use this color as our texturizing color just to kind of define our mountain a bit more. Okay, so to start, I'm going to just define this edge just a tad bit more because we have a little bit of shaded area here towards the left. So I'm just defining and outlining it and then just texturizing that area a little bit more. Next, I want to add just a little bit of loose texture. So I'm going to take the side belly of my brush and just add some really loose texture from the side, as you can see. And I'm just going to apply this all across the mountain face. So it's super loose, but we're starting to get a little bit more rock texture involved here. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to use my brush to add some crevices. So I'm going to start over towards the left here. I'm just going to do kind of a couple jagged lines here. And I'm just going to kind of work my way with my brush just to add a little bit of texture. So I'm going to angle another crevice towards the center, maybe a slightly angled line down from there. There's a pretty decently large crevice down the center that's kind of angled towards the right corner of the page. So I'm just going to do that. There's another crevice kind of towards the bottom half of it, just like so. And then a couple small ones off towards the right. And then I'm going to paint another one just slightly angled, kind of with the same formation of this edge here. And then I want to add maybe one kind of angled towards the left edge as well. And then I'm going to do a slightly horizontal one and then a vertical one, just a dainty little vertical one towards the top. And then I'm also going to kind of define this edge right here. Then do an angled crevice towards the right. And maybe just a couple dainty ones, just really loose, slightly vertical stemming there. And then from this point, I want to grab my size 2 brush and add a little bit of some greenery and some shrubs growing on this mountain face. So I'm just going to take our blend of Perylene Green and Sap Green. And with that, I want to first start to add a little bit of texture on top of this area here. Next, I'm going to add some over towards the right. So I'm just going to blot a couple green areas here. And by the right, I mean the opposite of that. I mean over to the left. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of shrubbery on top of the mountain, just a little bit of texture. And then a little bit towards the left as well. And then I want to add just a few blots of the greenery kind of growing and extending on the mountain. So I'm just adding a few little flecks of this greenery. Then from here, I'm going to add some towards the right. And just a little goes a long way. I'm going to add just some alongside this ridge and a little bit farther towards the right as well. And then just a little on the top of this peak too. Just some dainty, delicate details there. And before we move on, I'm gonna add, before I forget, a little bit more texture. This time I'll just use my size 2 brush to pull from the gray and brown blend that we did. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of texture into this gray misty area just to make it look like it's a part of the mountain above. So just kind of mimicking that dry brush texture. And then I also would like to add a couple birds. I love me a bird moment, and I'm going to use black for that. I'm just going to add a couple of them. So over towards the left, I'm just going to do like a V shape, very dainty and delicate pressure with my size 2 brush. So there's one bird. And then I'll do another one that's slightly more flat and even more off in the distance. And there we have our 2 little birds off in the distance. I hope that you enjoyed painting this landscape of Kings Canyon National Park in California during the autumn season. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any further watercolor tutorials posted every Saturday morning.